All right, on this episode, we have a good friend, Nathan Kennedy, who's back, probably one of the most brightest minds in the young generation of influencers who focuses on financial literacy. Nathan, thanks for coming back. I know I had to twist your arm a little bit.
No, man, listen, man. You got wine here. You've got like prosciutto, whatever, man. I'm gonna be here every week, man. I swear.
So I want to get right into some of the issues that you deal with on a daily basis. You have a lot of viewers and they send you a lot of DMs. What's the biggest challenge they're facing right now?
Biggest challenge, I would say, I mean, obviously it's like housing is the number one thing that I hear. The job market seems to be quite tough. I have a lot of opinions around the job market and what it really is. And
let's drill into it.
Well,
like you have an immigration minister that's cut some of the student visas and the NPRs moving forward. So that could help young people find jobs that were previously being taken up by anybody who needed to put those 20 hours in. Let's talk a little bit about that. What are they struggling with?
I think the job market, first thing, I hate when people say the job market's tough, because which job market are you talking about? Is it software? Is it tech? Is it trades? Is it like, what job market are you referring to? Because like, if you look at the numbers, the job market is pretty strong in North America. But if your specific one is saturated, like let's first say, for example, software engineers, like that's actually really tough right now. Like Silicon Valley, like all the big companies are laying off people. All those cushy $300,000, $400,000 jobs like are harder to come by. But like those maybe smaller mid-tier companies that are looking for a software engineer, like this is still pretty plentiful. It's like, what is your strategy to actually get a job? I think it's honestly an excuse to just be like, the job market's rough, and then just pack it in. And
is it expectation?
Yeah.
So it's the expectation that's really driving the problem, because there are jobs there. They just got to work hard at moving up the ladder to move into that pay scale that they're probably expecting.
Right.
It might take a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But it's there.
But I think like the biggest thing that I think people miss, and it's like this, maybe you could call it trite, but it's not what you know, it's who you know. Like that's more important than ever, because it's so easy to apply to a job that like everybody and their mother is applying and can apply and put a resume together and use ChatGPT and like get all these keywords and whatever and get in the door. But like what's actually going to get you the job is internal referrals. Like who inside is pulling for you to get the job? Because I know that if I'm working with somebody and my boy John, who works in whatever, says this guy's a brilliant guy, there's less risk for me to hire him than like some random person who, for all I know, is a total bum, right? No matter what his resume say. So I think a lot of job recruiters and companies are looking to reduce risk when they hire somebody, because the last thing you want is to bring somebody on and then have to package them out and they didn't add any value. And then now you got to go back out in the market and you got to find somebody else. So they want to reduce risk as much as possible. So like, that's why I always say, like, try to network, go on those coffee chats, do those things that your dad is telling you to do, because it actually matters. And then once you get your foot in the door, then you take care of the rest. But
is there a lack of interest in the boring jobs?
Yeah.
Because there are jobs out there that pay well but are boring.
Yeah.
But could really provide an opportunity for people to make some good money. Or are people just very specific on what they want to do and they're too picky?
Yeah, I think it's too picky. Everybody wants everybody thinks about like the work from home job where you make $250,000 and you can work from Mexico and do all these like great things. There's a trade shortage in Canada. There's a trade shortage in the United States. You could go to school for 2 years, do an apprenticeship for like, I don't know, a year as an electrician, and then come out and start making $50, $60, $70 an hour like that. You'd be like 23 making six figures.
Well, I know
you'd be richer than all your boys who are pushing pencils making $50K. Like,
I know of a group.
Nobody's business.
I know of a group. We talked about it off camera, where you join the union, they'll train you, and you could get into the water and sewer division of the union and make $45 to $50 an hour.
Like coal
doing water, sewer, and sanitary.
Yeah.
Right. And
it's the garbage that nobody wants to do.
Nobody wants to do.
It's literally like pipes, like literal garbage.
And the safety is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like everything is safe. They have unbelievable records for safety, and you can make good money. And people just don't want to do it because they want to work from home. They want to be unproductive.
Yeah.
Right? Like I heard a term the other day. I'm unproductively busy.
Yeah. it's funny. Yeah.
So is it expectation? Is it, just a wrong sense of what they want to do? Because what I started doing when I started my career, I'm not doing anymore. Okay. I never thought in a million years in 1990 that I'd be having a podcast.
Yeah.
All right. Because it didn't exist.
Yeah. Exactly.
So what people need to do is they have to probably start being able to understand that they have to be adaptable. They have to have a wider lens on what opportunities are out there because you don't know where it could lead.
Yeah.
So pigeonholing yourself into a certain stream limits what you could do. When you're getting DMs from your followers, and you got tons of them, what's the biggest theme? Like what's the frustration? Where's it coming from?
I guess when we're talking like job markets, I think the biggest thing, one of the bigger things that I hear is like, as a younger people trying to figure out should they go to the college or university, because guidance counselors always tell you that, like, they don't tell you this explicitly, but they have this like underlying undertone of like, here's a university stream for where all the elites go, and for all you idiots that can't do the university classes, go into this college thing because that's where the dumb people go. And like that is implicitly the sort of tone you have when you're like, hey, like maybe I don't love calculus, maybe I'm not a physics guy, maybe I don't know, think with my hands and work with my hands. Oh, okay, well you're shoveled into here. And you feel dumb because you're in school and all your friends, are in university and they're smart, and you're with these kids who apparently aren't as smart. And it becomes this like intellectual BS when it's like, again, you look like what I just said, when we're talking about, like, you look 5 years, 10 years down the line, who's really doing well? Who's the person with $60,000, $100,000, if you're in the US, $250,000 in debt? And who's the guy who's free and clear, making more money than he knows what to do with? He has to go get a financial advisor who's got so much money.
So things haven't changed much since I went to high school.
No.
Because we had three streams. You either went the advanced stream, which is university. You had the general to go into colleges and trade schools. And then you had basic, which is like one level down, from being useless,
rudimentary or whatever.
Okay,
whatever they
you're
called
basically
it,
putting screws in packs for IKEA. Like that's the extent of what you're going to do. But the reality is you were vilified if you went down the general stream.
Yeah.
And what it did was it pushed a lot of people into the advanced stream where they struggled.
Exactly.
They go into liberal arts. And I'm not trying to suggest that liberal arts are bad, but you go into a Starbucks and there's probably more degrees behind that counter than you could shake a stick at because they were somewhere they probably shouldn't have been.
And it goes down to, it's okay, you're 17 years old. Are you going to run a 10-year, 20-year calculation as a forward-looking earnings calculation as to how much money you're going to make? Like, no, it's going to be tough for you. You have no idea what's going on. So that's why I put a lot of it on the guidance counselors and the parents to be like, hey, like, if they go into this, degree or whatever it is, what's the expected earnings year 1, year 5, year 10? How's that going to compound? How is my, and like, that's why I think you shouldn't just go for the money, but like, that should not be a conversation, right? I think there was this revolt from like, hey, like, do what you love, like follow your passion and the money will follow. Like, no, it won't. The money will not follow if you follow your passion. And a lot of
Professor
cases.
Scott Galloway says anybody who says follow your passion's rich already.
Yeah.
Because it's just bullshit.
Yeah.
You got to follow your talent.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people.
Strong suits. Yes.
There's a lot of people that are very good with their hands. They're practical.
Yes.
And they should be in that, skilled trades, community college stream. And, I see my oldest son, he went the university route, didn't really enjoy it. He's now in college taking a program that he loves.
Yeah.
Right?
There you go.
And what he says is, Dad, I wish I would have known what I know now because I love this.
Yeah.
It's practical knowledge.
Right.
And I wasted my time. Now, he had a good time at Western, no question, like everybody does.
Went there too.
But it's just that I think he was under some peer pressure.
It's right? So many of these decisions come down to social dynamics, and it shouldn't. It should be hard facts, hard data, but that gets lost again. And so I think my model for life, I believed this when I was in college, and I believe this now, and I think I'll always believe it. It's like, okay, there's nothing wrong with the traditional path. I don't know why, you have to be some like visionary dropout, whatever. Like if that happens, great. But like you're an outlier if you make that happen. For the most part, there's nothing wrong with going to school. You get your degree that's reasonable, that can make you some money. You get in, you start putting in your hours, you get that career capital, that you start building those skills, you get your little bit of money. I mean, that's what I did. Like I literally went to school, went to something, okay, I went to be a doctor, figured out pretty quick, wasn't cut out to be a doctor. So then I switched into business. Switched in, I was like, it's gonna take me an extra year, like no problem. Applied to like a ton of grants to cover some of the costs. It worked, right? Took an extra year, took my time, graduated, started working at PepsiCo for a few years, saved up, I don't know, 40, 50 grand, was living at home with my family. I was gonna put it into a house. And then this social media thing came. So I had enough money to kind of just be like, okay, let me like give this a shot. And I actually had a little bit of flexibility. So like, just get your first like 10, 20, 30K in the bank. And that gives you options. And then once you figure that out, then you can start to like pivot and explore and dip your toe in and start to do different things. And like, just create that like foundation, right? Because I think everybody wants to be like there like tomorrow.
Well, it brings up a really good point, Nathan. And that is success and trying to achieve success involves being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Okay. And people forget that. Being successful is a journey. And there's a lot of folks that want it all right away and don't want to put in the pain, the struggle, the adversity to get there. You took a chance, right? But in doing so, you saved up some money, like a little, just safety net. Safety net.
Yeah.
You left a good job and you went for it.
Yeah.
It was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You didn't sleep at night.
I told my mom for 6 months.
Right?
Like, I couldn't. I had to have the results.
But it was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right? And I think at the end of the day, people need to start learning how to deal with adversity, because I don't think that bubble wrapped feeling or bubble wrapped style of parenting, and I'm not trying to pick on parents who bubble wrap.
Yeah.
It really takes the edges off.
Yeah.
And no one knows how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So they're scared. And you touched upon a topic about the levels of debt people are taking on. Mm-hmm. Like you go to a big college, you're coming out with $250,000 in debt.
Yeah. Like you certainly could be the case. Yeah.
I don't know what the difference is between Canada and the US, but even if you're up here in Canada, it's a lot of money.
A ton of money. Yeah.
What are some of the tools available to those folks coming out of university, a graduate program, with that debt as far as repayment on the OSAP side, whether it's a grant or the loan? What the government took some steps in helping these folks out. What are some tools there that exist right now?
Well, right now, I think we talked about it briefly like last week. Essentially in Canada, the federal portion of your student loan isn't accruing any interest. And oftentimes that's the largest portion. It's like 80, 90% of your loan. So theoretically, you don't have to be in a rush to pay that back. They mandate that you do pay back something every month. There's like a minimum payment, but you can essentially like take your time with that and like go and do whatever. There's a small provincial portion that you'll have, and it varies depending on the province and things like that, your situation, that is accruing interest, like at like 8 or 9%. So you have to pay that off. And you can do that by sending in a check. And again, we've covered it before. That's one thing. There's the repayment assistance plan that you can get on that, again, basically what they're going to help you do is like stretch out the loan so you could theoretically make enough time to find a good job, to make enough money to pay them back. In the US, it's quite hard. I mean, they keep getting hit with, I know Biden tried to do something and then it got blocked and got shot down in Congress.
It's all politics.
And so the simple thing is, ultimately, there's a few tools and there's a few things that are going to help. But at the end of the day, like, you just got to pay them back. And you got to come up with a plan that's maybe it's over the longer term, depending on the amount. But like, why are you going into debt? What's your return on debt? Like it's, I know we always talk about this. People always talk about this. Oh my God, so much money. Oh my God, this and that. But you still have enrollment at all-time highs for these programs that don't have jobs, that are going to be able to pay back that debt load, right?
So if you're going to start talking to young people about this decision, it's got to be in high school.
Yeah, no,
right?
100%.
And you're trying to reach a group of folks early in their life. Are you starting to touch base with some of these high school students and helping them through this?
You know, some of them, I mean, I imagine that some see some of the TikTok videos, you know, it's a younger platform and things like that. I think what I try to do is like, man, like ultimately, like, what's the life you're trying to live? You know, like who cares? Like a lot of people don't really care about what job it is. Okay, great. So like, let's try to get you some money and like what pays well and what's the most efficient path to get there that suits your skills that you won't absolutely hate. Because as much as I'm saying, you know, don't follow your passion until, you know, you get to the place where the things that your job gives you is actually what makes you passionate. Like you still also can't absolutely hate it. Like there's certain jobs that like would pay well, like investment banking, for example. Like I don't think I would last. Like I would just not like that. I don't like some senior director or whatever breathing down my throat and working 100 hours a week, can't sleep, living in New York, whatever. Some people think that's great and they're going to be paid handsomely for it. That couldn't be me. So if you can find a job that you can tolerate and you're skilled at and you can like make some money, then you have a little bit of leeway. So divorcing yourself from like the social circles of like my friends are going here, or like all my friends are going to Western, or all my friends are staying in Ontario, or I don't know, whatever it is. If you're in the States, like all of them are going out of state. Pressure. It's all social. It's all their parents. It's all everything. If you can just, if you're friggin' 16 or 17, you're wise beyond your years enough to like divorce yourself from that and be like, hey, like this is not what I want at all. I just tell you, just don't do anything. Just pause. And I think that gets demonized so much. Oh my God. My poor Johnny's taking a gap year. Oh my God, he's a failure. Like, no, like he's not an idiot. He's just taking his time because he doesn't want to blow 50 grand a year or a semester because he doesn't know what he's into, versus somebody who's just following what they're being told, and then they're saddled with all this debt, and then their parents are like, well, it's your debt, not ours. And it's like, well, you guys were the ones that are pressuring me to go. So I think a lot of it's social. And so my advice is like, just try to like come up with your own plan, like literally pen to paper. Like I go to this degree, it pays this much. And that's why like some of the job videos that I do are literally like job career videos. Like I'll do a video with a guy and an architect. I'll do a guy and a lawyer, guy and a doctor, guy and a private equity guy. What are the earnings? What does the job look like? How do you get in that? And just give them a picture of what that career looks like. And all the comments that I get, usually from high school students, are like, wow, didn't know this job existed. Wow, didn't know you could do that. Wow, I wish my guidance counselor would tell me that like this was out there for me, versus, you know, shoveling me into these classes. I don't know what their MO is. And maybe it sounds like I'm the anti-guidance counselor guy this episode. No, but like it pains me that like a 60-second TikTok is teaching you more than what these people are being paid to do. Like it's crazy.
Well, you've done a pretty good job of it. and what's interesting is they're quick little lessons.
Yeah.
Right? Like you pack a lot of info and insight in one little piece that, like you said, it takes forever for people to grasp in the real world. You've used the platform for good, financial literacy. Credit has become a bit of a challenge. Okay. People are really struggling because of cost of living. Credit card interest rates are going through the roof. Is credit easier to get on the unsecured side than it used to be?
That's a tough question. I think
because I remember when I was in university, they used to just hand me cards. Like you walk through. Is that happening anymore?
Yeah. That's still happening. Yeah, a lot of kids are like. I mean, yeah, of course it's happening. I mean, Amazon right now is offering you $25 off your order if you just get their little cute MasterCard. You got Walmart telling you you're going to get free groceries for a week if you spend $1,000 on whatever, like whatever. Like it's always the store-bought stuff. So no, you've still got credit card issuers on campuses giving them stuff for like a t-shirt. 100%. It's ridiculous. I think, but in general, around credit, it's still going to be out there. I think even sophisticated people, quote unquote, that have like good credit cards aren't using them correctly. For example, like you're racking up all these points on your Amex, and then you're buying a coffee maker with your points, and you're getting like 0.5 cents per point or something like that, versus like the best use of a credit card is for travel, and it always will be, because all these credit card providers have partners, Aeroplan, Delta, Sky Miles, Avion, like they have these very curated relationships with these airlines, so where you can get like 3 cents per point, 4 cents per point. For example, like I flew to Miami, like round trip business class for like 50,000 points, which equates to like, I don't know, like it should be like $500 or something, or sorry, 50,000 points. It should be 250 or 300,000, but there was a deal. So I got a ridiculous return on it because I was like looking for that. And so that would be a much better use of my points, because it saves me a lot more money, as opposed to just like going on whatever and just spending it on tables and appliances and whatever. And, you know, redeeming it for cash. A lot of people will do that. Not a good use of your credit card, right?
When you get questions about credit cards and stuff like that, do people understand the ramifications of the credit score?
No. No.
Like
straight up, no.
They don't, eh?
No, it's I have to like break it down as simple as I can. Like it's the most, I made a story about this the other day. It's like, people just don't pay their credit cards. Like, let's start with that. They just don't do it. They just spend. And like, I think, my girlfriend was telling me that, she has a friend of hers, that was like, you have to pay more than the minimum. She literally said that to her. She's like, you have to pay. I thought you just pay the minimum and like, that's it.
So
for forever.
So financial literacy did not exist.
And I mean, like, I don't know. Like, it's like, for me, it's like, well, it's still out there, and it's not to make them feel silly, because nobody taught them that. But it's like, it's so
Nathan,
just pay it back in
I think
full.
The biggest travesty in banking is a consumer saving $2 not to get a paper statement.
Yeah.
And when people, every time I say that to somebody says, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And I'm like, well, everybody's on their phone. Mm-hmm. And when you look at your bank account or your credit card statement on your phone, you can only see 6 transactions. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. People are lazy. Yeah. They don't scroll.
They're not going to get in it. Yeah.
So every time people have issues, I always say, listen, can you bring in 6 months bank statements and 6 months credit card statements? Because I want to see where you're spending money. Mm-hmm. I want to make sure you're focusing on the needs, not the wants. Mm-hmm. Really drill down. I had one guy, he had $3,200 in Uber Eats charges on his credit card.
Oh my God.
Okay. Now, he didn't use $3,200 worth of food in that month. He had his wife, he had his 3 kids all on his account. And all he was seeing is $9, $12, $8,
Chill, yeah.
$14, $7, like all small amounts, which, somebody ordered something. But he wasn't keeping track.
It can compound so
right?
fast, man.
And when you're only seeing 5 or 6 transactions, and if you're blind, you increase the font, you can only see 3, right? It's a problem.
Yeah.
And people
you need
just,
that pain, man.
People just see what's left in the bank account. Yeah. They're not seeing what they're spending on. And then you drill down into the recurring debits. They have subscriptions to things they don't even know what they're subscribing to anymore.
The sneakiest thing now is a lot of these platforms have automatic expiration date things. So your freaking card, if you don't cancel it flat out, and you just get a new one because the expiration date, is expired, and you just need a new expiration date, the software updates it. You don't even need to. So what would happen before is you'd have a subscription, you have your credit card for 3 years, and then it would be annoying because every time you got a new card, you had to re-put your credit card, right, for all your subscriptions because it expired. But now, like these different retailers have realized, like, oh my God, we're churning so hard.
Well, how are they getting the new expiry date?
I'm not sure how the software works, but they literally just get it. And they just know. Once the credit card's issued, it automatically updates so it can continue to charge it, right?
Wow.
So I'm not sure what the integration is on the back end, but it's beautiful for businesses because they can continue to charge forever, because most people, if their credit card doesn't get compromised or the credit card doesn't get stolen or whatever, will have the same number, and then their expiration date will just change. It can update automatically, and they'll keep charging them forever. So now people have to manually go in and get rid of it. And we know that people typically just let things go, right? And so they're just making a lot more money, and people are spending money that they don't really have.
So what's the lesson there?
You just got to be more mindful. Like, there isn't much else to say. Like, you just have to be aware. You have to get into the numbers, as painful as it is, at least once a month. You know, I say all the time, people spend 40, 50, 60 hours a week making money. They can't spend 5 minutes a week managing it, right? And the managing is actually what's going to make you the
They'll
most
spend
money.
3 hours scrolling on TikTok.
Watching guys like me.
Watching guys like me.
Yeah. But they're not actually in the numbers, man.
But let's talk a little bit about car loans, lines of credits.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, things that revolve around prime. So the lines of credits are always interesting because people are excited to get one, but then don't realize it's prime plus 4.
Yeah.
Prime plus 4.99.
Which is insane.
Right?
Yeah.
And
like 9, 10, like whatever. Yeah.
And they spend like bandits, not realizing the obligation needs to be repaid. And, you know, we had a couple weeks back, we had Doug Hoyes on, who's a licensed bankruptcy trustee. And he said the amount of unsecured debt is just mounting and mounting and mounting. In the US, student loans can't be written off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I've heard of grandparents that co-signed still being on the hook to pay off these things.
Yeah.
They're stretching car loans out to 84 months.
Sickening.
I think when I was in the car market, the max was, I think, 60 months. Now it's 84, which is 7 years.
Yeah.
They're just stretching this stuff out. People are paying more interest. People are not getting that knowledge of financial literacy and eliminating debt. Mm-hmm. We used to have mortgage burning parties when I got into the mortgage business more than a full amortization schedule ago, right?
Yeah.
I was telling somebody about that. Like, I think Michael said, "What the hell is a mortgage burning party?" I said, "That's what you celebrate when you finish paying off your mortgage."
Yeah,
like, it doesn't even exist.
It
Like,
doesn't happen.
Are we just in a debt nation? Are we just realize that, hey, you know what? We got to live with debt. We just got to figure out how to manage it?
I think, I mean, obviously the government sets a pretty bad example with debt management, because it's just like, let's just rejig some stuff and push it down the line. It's not how you should live your life at all. I'm not blaming the government. I mean, people need to take responsibility for it. I think with auto debt, a rule I always talk about is like the 24/10 rule, right? I don't know if you ever heard of that. No. Like, put at least 20, if you're going to finance, like try to pay cash, you do the calculation. Right now, auto loans are anywhere from, 6 to 10% or something like that. So it's pretty high. And so if you've got the cash on hand, probably makes sense to pay cash. If you don't, a lot of people don't, it's totally fine. 24/10 rule states 20% down on the loan, minimum. 4 years, no longer than 4 years on that loan term. 10% of your monthly budget, no more than that, should be spent on your car. So if you can keep let's say you're making $5,000 a month, try to keep your transportation costs 10% or under. So $500.
That makes
right?
Perfect sense.
Keep that loan term below 4 years, because if I'm a car salesman, I'll stretch that thing out to 120 if I could.
Self-payment.
Because, oh my gosh, your payment just went from $800 to $400. Isn't that magic? I'm the magician. Now take this car and bring your friend. I'll send them the same thing. But if you can keep it to the 48 months maximum, you're going to pay that down in a reasonable amount of time. The interest it'll accrue, but it won't accrue like balloon like crazy like it would for the other term. And if you put 20% down, that's a healthy chunk of it gone, right? So that's and I get pushback. Oh my God, 10%. How am I supposed to do that? How am I supposed to do that? I'm like, listen.
Well, then you're buying beyond your means.
That's what I say. And it's like, well, if you do the 24/15, well, that's better than the, blowing half your budget, your monthly budget, right? Like, some people think about they always get you with the payments. It's like, I make $3,000 a month. The payment is $1,000 a month. Okay, I can afford that. No, you can't. No. You can't. You got somewhere to live. But you need to eat. You've got a kid. No, but like, that's where their head goes, and that's how these car salesmen, they know that, and that's how they get them.
So you touched upon the government. All the polls are showing young people have lost faith in this government. I'm going to go back 8-9 years when this government was put in place. We got a young prime minister promoting youth, really wanted to. We got that fly here. Okay, I'm going to try to get it. Have you lost faith in this government?
That's a tough question. I don't know if I had faith to begin with. If an honest question, I don't like put my faith in government. I say this, I love this country and I still absolutely love this country, everything it's given me. My mom was an immigrant and they took her in and she made a very successful life. And I've been afforded many opportunities because of where I live. So I'm very privileged. So I'll never turn my back on that. Very, very proud of where I am. Do I think we could be doing a lot better? Yes, absolutely.
Well, you said the government's leading a bad example, right? Because they're not balancing the budget. Everything starts at the top. If you don't show fiscal restraint, how do you expect your youth to do the same? Yeah. And I'm struggling with the way politics are being played right now, because I was talking to a good friend of mine, and he's a retired lawyer, and he worked in the Ministry of Industry in the 80s, and he actually worked on the free trade agreement with the U.S.
Like NAFTA?
The original free trade agreement with the U.S.
Yeah.
So this is in the 80s, worked in the Mulroney government. And he made a point, and he said, Vince, during the Mulroney and Chrétien years, okay, I'm not going to say we did it better than the Liberals back then, but I'm just talking that era. We governed. We went into the ministry office every day, and every Monday, those bureaucrats all had a portfolio. We met on Monday morning and briefed the minister of all the issues of the day for each portfolio.
Yeah.
Okay, for each file. And when he went into the House of Commons, he was well versed on every aspect of industry and trade in the country. Government's governed.
Yeah.
Today, I see it a lot differently. And he goes, I don't have hope, because all these governments do, regardless of political stripe, is they just campaign and prepare for elections and don't do any governing.
And get to the next cycle, because the whole thing is fundraising.
Exactly. And he made the point of, he goes, we have a part-time finance minister who works out of Toronto. She probably has gone into the Ministry of Finance maybe 5 times this year. How does she know her portfolio well?
Exactly.
Like, she's parading around the country in hard hats and vests, talking about doling out money that we don't have.
Yeah.
And the cost of living goes up because we continue spending money.
Yeah.
And if we do believe in the words of Milton Friedman, printing money causes inflation.
It's very simple.
Right? It's very simple.
I think I heard this thing, and it's so true, that like years ago, you would do you would go in the private sector, and you would work and you'd work and you'd work and you'd accumulate all these skills and career capital and knowledge and everything. And then you go into service. And then you go into politics because you're serving your nation. You have this foundry of info and knowledge that you can bring to serve your country. Now you just have career politicians where they'll graduate Columbia, they'll do like some law school.
Columbia is not necessarily a great topic these days.
Yeah, that's not the best example. That's just top of mind. They'll graduate some Ivy League school, do law school, maybe do a year of something, and then they're in the public sector, and then their whole thing is politics. Now maybe that's a brutal generalization, but I do think that like you have career politicians now where all they care about is just making it to the next cycle, and so they're just going to make these trade-offs that serve their career. Before, people were done with their career. They were just here to govern, as you said. So I think it's completely different. I think when young people look at the government, one thing I'm happy about is that they have lost faith, because now they got to look inward and be like, well, they're not doing anything for me, so I got to figure this out myself. And I think more and more and more, I'm seeing young people just be like, to hell with that. Like, I'm just going to take control of this.
Take responsibility.
Because ultimately it should always been like that. But I would say that it's honestly, a lot of people just it doesn't even register in their head to be mad about like all of these things. It's just kind of like,
so they just tune them out.
It's just like, dude, this is what it is. It sucks, but like, let's just get it done. Now, I might be completely out of touch, but I think for the most part, I don't know many people my age, I'm 27, or, in their 20s that are looking at the government being like waiting, going like this, being like, can't wait till the government saves me. Like, I don't think anybody's that disillusioned to think they're coming to save us, because I don't think they are. No.
A couple more things. Back in the day, you were a big advocate of Mint.
Yeah.
The budgeting tools. It's kind of been taken over.
Yeah.
It's gone.
It's gone, yeah.
What are the top 3 budgeting apps right now that you're recommending to folks that are needing some help in this regard? Because I think budgeting, it all starts there. If you can figure out what's coming in and what's going out, and you got something left, now you got something to invest. Mm-hmm. You could do that with these apps. They're really cool, intuitive. What are the top 3?
You Need a Budget was one of my favorites. It's basically Mint, but like a little bit more simple, more rundown. It can connect with your bank accounts. You can see everything. It's fantastic. I think a good old Excel spreadsheet is still dangerous. You could literally anybody has it right now, and they could just go in, or even Google Sheets. Yeah. You can just go in and just make a little spreadsheet, and it can populate everything. All you need to do is put your little expenses, and it's great. Now, it's not going to integrate with your bank account, but I mean,
all bank accounts you could upload.
You could pull your CSV.
Pull your CSV file, right? Yeah.
So Microsoft, like Excel is great. Those things are great, just to run some numbers, just to get some clarity. And there's a number of them, but You Need a Budget's probably one of the best in terms of like integrating. And I would say just getting down into, and the third I would say is a pen and a paper. There's something cathartic about like writing down these numbers and writing out a plan. And then maybe you put it in your phone and you do all the software, whatever, but like just create like a little monthly plan of what your expenses are, what's the money coming in, like super rudimentary. And you'd be surprised at how much clarity it can bring when those numbers are on that page and you've written it down. Again, not super foundational stuff, but there are studies that have shown that like
you write things down.
You write things down, it like impacts you a lot more profoundly. So that's what I would say right now.
The last topic I want to cover is housing, because we talked about that at the beginning. There's a lot of people feeling, especially young generation, feeling that housing's out of touch. I'm of the belief that if there's a will, there's a way. Last time you were on, we talked about house hacking, but I really think that there's some cool programs out there that, if utilized properly, people could start saving money. You got the first savings account, first home savings account, put $8,000 a year, max $40,000. It's a direct deduction from your income that generates a tax refund. Mm-hmm. You can use that tax refund to put into your RSP, which generates a further tax refund. Mm-hmm. So you could turn $8,000 into maybe 12.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
By just transferring that tax refund into an RSP. You do it with 2 people, you double that.
Yeah.
Right? And then you set your expectation maybe out an extra 2-3 years. There's that fly again.
Yeah.
Why is there a lack of hope in people not trying to set goals and plans that maybe are not 3 years, maybe 5 years or 7 years out?
Well, I do think that like a lot of my age in their 20s haven't given up on buying a home. They just have done that. Exactly. Like there was a study where these students were polled, and I think it went from like 20% to 50% are pushing out have increased their timelines from, let's say, 5 years after school to like 10 or 15 years to get their first home. I think people are still have hope that it'll happen, but like they're just pushing that out. And so you're going to have to come up with a plan to figure that out. Now, one thing the government did do right was the FHSA. Does it address the actual problem? No, like it would probably be more helping developers build more homes, whatever, which they're doing something. Yeah. We'll know, we'll see what happens with that. They've got some big ambitions there. But for the most part, this is great just to build some wealth, because then you have the TFSA where you can put, I believe it's like $7,000 now or $8,000 or something like that. You've got the RSP, which is going to be based on your income. And then the FHSA, which you can put just $8,000 and pile that away. Like that's a ton of tax sheltered money you can put away. And continue to like compound over time. And then again, like you're getting that tax refund.
I lived through it with the RESP. Mm-hmm. Okay. When I started the RESP, when the kids were born, I said, shit, what's this $2,000 going to do?
Yeah.
Right. Like university costs are going up. How the hell am I going to put 3 kids through school? And sure enough, you get that grant. It's in a mutual fund. It's in a balanced fund. It's doing well. Mm-hmm. They go to school. We haven't even spent all of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was 18 years. Well, 20 because the kids are, they overlapped a little bit. But the compounding factor and a goal of a longer period of time can give you hope. Maybe you're not a homeowner at 25. Maybe you're a homeowner at 35.
Yeah.
But you can still be one.
Absolutely.
Right? And I'm hoping that people instill some sense of hope again, because it is possible. There are programs out there that are very helpful. You just gotta be patient. I think social media, the bad part of it has created a sense of urgency for people, and they don't have the patience anymore.
I think so many people, like, and you also, I say this all the time, why do you want a home? Why the hell do you want a home? It costs so much money. There's so many things that go wrong. You're not going to use most of it if you're young and you're out all the time and you're like traveling all the time. Why are you putting all this capital and tying it up there? Because society told you that you should have a home and this and that, whatever. Like, there's a time and a place for home. Personally, I think in your 20s, rent, keep your costs low, get after the dollars, baby. Get after the dollars, travel, do the fun stuff, whatever. And then once you're like settling down, you know, you find a nice lady or a nice guy or whatever, a home starts to make more sense when there's going to be multiple people in the picture, like the little ones come and everything like that. Then it's like, okay, maybe we need a spot for them, something to call our own, like something for your family. But why do you need to own your condo off Bloor and whatever at 25 years old? What, so you can tell your family you're a baller and like you're doing well in life? You're already doing well in life. Everybody's renting. Rich people rent. It's like this, it's a worst kept secret. Rich people rent, believe it or not. And because their money is in other things that's making them a lot more money than being tied up in some mortgage that's not cash flowing at all, right? Or some house that's not bringing in any income. I think that gets lost as well. Like, not every year is going to be ripping 20, 30, 40% appreciation per year every single year. Like, you also have costs associated with that. You have some down years. You have some things called rate increases that happen here and there. And if your return's probably going to be like 2-3% if you look back over 20, 30 years versus all these other beautiful asset classes you could have put your money into while you were renting like a quote unquote loser.
Yeah,
right?
I think people just have to adjust their expectation.
Just push it out.
Push it out.
Just push it out and you're going to be fine.
One last question. When's your first book coming out?
I don't have any plans for that, man.
You gotta work on a book, man.
Yeah,
I think you got a lot of nuggets and a lot of tips for people. And I think it would do really well.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you,
so thanks again for coming out. I really appreciate it. We got to do it again.
Of course. It's my pleasure.
Take care, man.
My pleasure.
All right.